Okay, I did in fact shoot a button buck with my crossbow, and I would not do that today. I'm not saying that you shouldn't shoot button bucks. That is totally your decision. The way I'm doing things here now, the way I'm trying to improve deer habitat and get bigger bucks, that sort of thing. One of the things I don't do is shoot button bucks, at least not on purpose. I was relatively new to crossbow hunting. I was relatively new to filming my own hunts as well. And because I was new to filming my own hunts and relatively new to shooting the crossbow and hunting with the crossbow, I didn't have a lot of up close and personal experience with deer. That's one of the things I love about the crossbow. But looking back, I was relatively new to that. I had not had close encounters with deer as a rifle hunter growing up and whatnot. You're shooting deer at 80 yards plus at least. So I didn't have a lot of experience shooting the crossbow or interacting with deer up close. So I didn't know what to look for necessarily, but I also was fiddling with the camera and didn't realize that this was a button buck. I thought it was a young doe coming in. Now I'd like to think that today I'm a little bit more savvy. I can identify a deer as it's coming in front of me and tell whether it's a buck or a doe and all that sort of thing. Tell if it's a button buck and avoid shooting that deer. And again, I'm not knocking people that might happen to shoot button bucks. That's totally your choice. If it's a legal deer in your area and if you're following all the regulations and you're enjoying the outdoors, that's all that matters. That being said, I try to avoid shooting button bucks now. It's not part of my plan as far as this property is concerned overall. But I think this is an important video for another reason, as you will see. This hunt starts with me down looking over the buck field here behind me, down over the hill. Had a little tree stand in a maple tree overlooking a very rough food plot that I had put in. The food plot was nothing special, that is for sure. Back then we were haying the entire field. There was nothing growing up between that lower buck field and the house. So it's basically a wide open field. Today I leave that growing up a little bit, thicken it up. And we have fawns bedding in there behind me right now, I am quite sure, because I see them regularly. So I was sitting in that tree stand, overlooking the buck field, watching the afternoon pass. There was a woodchuck playing out in front of me 70, 80 yards out. That is the same woodchuck, or at least the same woodchuck hole that I am still having problems with to this day. I have shot several woodchucks over that field. As those of you watching Death by Bunjie or following us on the Facebook page will recall, I've shot a lot of woodchucks down there in that buck field, and there are still woodchuck holes down there causing problems with my tractor. I was watching this woodchuck out there in the middle of that field, and I even had an opportunity to see a red squirrel. I don't see too many of those. We have a lot of gray squirrels here in northeastern Pennsylvania, but the occasional red squirrel is kind of a neat little thing to see. This is the kind of reasons that I go out there and hunt. I like to interact with nature and see nature, and I love the crossbow for giving me that opportunity. I can go out there at a time before the cold weather hits, when those animals aren't quite as stressed, and you get to sit there quietly and watch nature unfold right before your eyes. You can't beat that. An hour or so before dark, this young deer makes its way out to my right, and you can see that it makes its way right over the nice little rough food plot, early effort of a food plot, makes its way into that clearing behind me, which is where the 100-year-old apple tree is. Now today, I also let that 100-year-old apple tree area grow up a lot thicker as well to make the deer feel more comfortable and maybe create some bedding area, that sort of thing. I've also, since this time, planted a lot more apple trees in there as well. But back then it was quite open. This deer makes its way around behind me, and I'm not sure, but I suspect it had already seen me in the tree stand. It had already seen that I was there, and it was trying to get a view of what it was before it went into the food plot to eat. Eventually that deer makes its way off to my right. Shooting off to the right with your crossbow is a little difficult, of course, but it can be done. But I would have to position myself differently in order to make that happen. Really what I wanted was a shot in front of me, if at all possible. Eventually, I'm waiting for this deer to move around. It makes its way in front of me. That deer is still on alert a little bit, still wondering what is up in that tree. That deer stops on the other side of some maples to view the tree stand, sort of get a sense of the area and see if there's any threat up in that tree. Eventually it makes its way out of the opening.
Right.
I stop that deer broadside, and Bunjie and I, we're gonna take that shot.
Right.
That deer came in. I didn't even see her off to my right. She's off over there. Went around behind me. Was behind me for 10, 15 minutes. And then came back around. I thought I was going to come around this way. I moved the camera over to the other side. Thought I was going to come around the other side over to my left. And she circled back around this way. Came out in the field. She was eating a little bit, making her way up through there behind a tree. Kept looking. I didn't dare move. I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. So finally, I took the shot. Got a good shot on her. Called to her. Got her to stop. She stopped for just a second. I pulled the trigger. Great blood shot as she's running away. It was a little high on this side. But it went out just right on the other side. And she's laying down there over behind us. So we're in good shape there. Wow. I think this deer, it definitely was born this year. I'm going to go tag that deer real quick. It is exactly October 1st. It's exactly 6:34. And I think I've got another 15 minutes, 20 minutes of light.
Now this is a 15-yard shot, so I'm aiming the crossbow halfway between the 20 and the 10-yard reticles for this 15-yard shot. And what happens? That deer jumps the string. I see that the deer drops and runs after it's shot, and I don't realize until I go back and look at the video that the deer in fact jumped the string. When I look off to my left as this deer is running past me, I can still remember to this day that that deer was really losing steam the minute it crossed to my immediate left. I mean, he'd only gone 15, 20 yards and he was already slowing down. I could tell that I had made a really good shot on that deer. Now, it was a short track job. This deer only went just under 50 yards. It was very easy to find. Didn't have any trouble finding it. Got out of the tree stand, collected the arrow. Arrow was covered in blood. It looked great. Followed the track job right out into the woods. I had seen where the deer had pretty much gone, and it wasn't too hard to find that deer. And that's when I found out that it was in fact a button buck. Again, I wouldn't shoot a button buck today. It was great food for the table, so it definitely did not go to waste, and it was a great experience to share with you. And when I got back to the house, looked at the video, that's when I realized what a good video this was to demonstrate jumping the string. This deer was at 15 yards. It reacts between the time that that crossbow was fired, the time that it hears that sound, and the time that the arrow gets there. It had time to react. This young deer could react that fast. Its reflexes are that incredible that it can react before an arrow gets there. When an arrow's only got to travel at 300 feet per second, it's only got to travel 15 yards. I'm doing another video on crossbow speed, and I think you should check out that video if you're interested in topics like the speed of your crossbow and the jumping the string, that sort of thing. Go ahead and look at that video as well. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a problem with shooting button bucks, let me know if that's something you avoid or if it is something that you don't avoid. If it's food for the table and you're happy with that, I'd love to hear about that as well. Do you have any experience with button bucks, and have you shot any button bucks? I'd be curious to know about that too. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you'll subscribe if you want some more crossbow related and outdoor related videos from Death by Bunjie. Check out our Facebook page if you haven't done so already. And until next time, all hail Bunjie!
The second state is number one in my book.
Chipmunks. Chipmunks on the roof. You gotta love that.